You're listening to Season 3 of That's Not How a Baby Sleeps. I'm your host, Alicia Daishon, and I'm joined by my co-host, Eleni Katsinis. We're not your average sleep consultants, no cry it out, or sleep training at all, for that matter. Well, I'm so excited that you came to chat with me. I miss talking to you.
I'm really excited to be here. I know, I was just thinking about you the other day.
How old is Lucas now?
Gosh, he's going to be 2 on December 13th. Yeah, so his language has just exploded since we worked together. And he's
Good. Awesome.
forming sentences. Yeah, so it's been fun.
So excited when you start getting the full sentences.
Yes.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'll get you to just kind of introduce yourself first and just talk a little bit about yourself. Kelsey was one of my 6-week clients. So we worked together it was an extended period of time too, because we paused for medical stuff and all of that kind of stuff. But do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Kelsey. I am living in California. I'm a mom, like I said, a sweet and wild to be a 2-year-old little boy. His name is Lucas. I started working with Alicia when he was, I think it was around 16 months. I could be wrong. He was waking hourly, and so we really needed to seek support out. And so I'm so thankful for Alicia and the support she gave to us. And I'm excited to talk more about our journey on this.
Awesome. Okay. So obviously he was waking up hourly and stuff. Mm-hmm. Was that pretty much from birth? Do you want to kind of give me just a backstory of what sleep looked like for you guys when you kind of started to feel like something was off with sleep?
Yeah, it was so interesting because his sleep was actually pretty solid for the first couple months. He slept 8 hours throughout the night. And so he was pretty, gassy. He would grunt during the night though a little bit, but he wouldn't wake up for a full cry. And so yeah, he slept for a solid 8 hours, and then we hit the 4-month mark. And I remember right before the 4 months, we went to LA to see family, and we came back home, and he just started waking up hourly after that. And I was like, okay, well, it's 4 months. Maybe it's the 4-month developmental progression. And so I just kind of went from there, but it started going on and on and on till, for the next 12 months.
Do you want to talk a little bit about just medical challenges and stuff? Because that was a big thing for us when we were working.
Yeah. So he definitely had the oral ties at 3 months old. And I didn't know it until he was 3 months old either, because even though I was breastfeeding, I was exclusively pumping. And so the doctors are like, he's gaining weight. There's, no one ever checked for oral ties. It was our doula who had actually was like, I suspect oral ties. So we went to a La Leche meeting, and sure enough, the lactation consultant there was like, yep, he has oral ties. And we went and got them revised at about 3 months. That was definitely, it still is causing some issues in his body and sleep. He had weak oral muscles from a weak tongue, and it affected how much he could eat. And had open mouth breathing because he didn't have the strength to close his mouth at night. And now I know it was likely causing reflux, and he was hungry, and all of these other issues, which I know I mentioned to you, Alicia. We went to go see the ENT, and he had grade 3 adenoids, which was, I think, covering about 60% of his airway. So that was a factor, and sleep as well, which we still haven't removed him, which we aren't going to. We use the nasal spray, which we think has helped a lot.
That's awesome.
He did have iron deficiency anemia at one point, which I really wanted to mention that because I listened to one of your prior episodes, and that can really impact sleep as well. Yeah.
All of these different things just layering on top of each other while everyone's just kind of telling you just need to sleep train and just kind of suck it up and go through that process. And you're like, no, I'm not doing that. How is everything going, nutrition wise and stuff for him now, with the eating solids and everything? Because I know obviously that was a struggle too. As well.
Yeah, it's getting better. It's still a struggle. We're still doing, having to do exercises to strengthen his tongue and do feeding therapy, and it's going to take some work. It's getting better. He still breastfeeds during the day and still kind of prefers that over solid foods, but Um, Definitely better than when we started.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say too, you said you were exclusively pumping for like the first 3 months. Was that because you
Mhm.
wouldn't latch because of the oral ties and everything?
Yeah, I knew it was common for newborns, to be on you a lot, but I was just like, he would only feed for a short period of time. He would fall asleep and then he would wake up after 20 minutes. And I was just like, I am so touched out. I need someone else to feed him. And then I came to prefer giving the bottles. And I think he was staying full a little bit longer with the bottles too. But yeah, I was shocked. He was surprised. Ended up being able to latch at, I think it was close to 4 months by the time he ended up being able to
Yeah, and that
latch.
makes sense too. It's like they're just not transferring milk properly from the breast and then like feeding constantly. And a lot of the time we hear that with newborns too. It's like, well, they're gaining weight. I'm like, well, they're eating like a ridiculous amount of time over a 24-hour period. Like, of course they're going to gain weight. And that's a lot of the time those oral ties are missed and they will affect feeding, sleep, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm so glad that you guys figured that out. And that was long before we even worked together. How do you feel like these issues kind of impacted just sleep day to day for you guys? Obviously, there was hourly wake ups all night long, so I'm sure he was really tired and stuff during the day as well, and sleep was just kind of all over the place too, right?
Yeah, with not only with Lucas, but for myself, it was like I was so exhausted. I wanted to work, but I couldn't because I was a substitute teacher at the time, and I was like, I can't get up at 6 a.m. when I'm waking up hourly and going to bed at 11. So I was fortunate that my boyfriend was able to kind of support us in that area financially, but we were both so tired. My mom said, when I look at you too, I see people who are just trying to survive like the next hour. And I was even told that Lucas was probably having signs of ADHD. And I was like, well, first of all, he's really young still.
Yeah,
And then I was like, well, I know sometimes if you're overly tired, that can kind of mimic symptoms of
absolutely.
ADHD. Yeah. And it was just so that really impacted us with our energy levels. And
Totally.
yeah, and even we were just waiting to go to bed. We would start the day waiting for nap time and waiting for bedtime because we
So
couldn't
tired.
function well. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure it affected, as you mentioned, like the signs of ADHD and stuff. It obviously was affecting behavior and stuff during the day. He was having a hard time with that. It's actually something like with my initial sleep certification and just like with the sleep training culture and stuff, that was a common thing that I would see from sleep trainers being like, like lack of sleep can cause
Mhm.
these cause ADHD in like in children. So like this is a reason that we should sleep train. And I'm like,
No. Yeah, that drove me crazy too.
I want to talk a little bit about just concerns and stuff that you had that were dismissed, whether it was like pediatricians, stuff like that, because I feel like you were always one who really advocated for your child,
Yeah.
and didn't take no for an answer when you're like something is wrong here, which I loved.
Yeah, it was really hard, but I had a good friend who was also like, you're your child's advocate. They can't talk for themselves. So that kept me going when I was kind of feeling down about everything. Yeah, there was a lot of dismissal around my feelings. I was told I was looking for things to be wrong. Because he appeared as this like happy go lucky kid whose behavior, he was just a really lovable kid. He wasn't failure to thrive. So breastfeeding was a huge one too, because especially providers told me, I think at 9 months, they told me to stop night feeding, and I just didn't feel right about that in my gut. It didn't feel right. I was like, he's still young, and even if there were no issues, I don't think I would want to do that. And it definitely strained some relationships with family. I was told to cry it out. Even one family member had told me how it would improve their uh, cognition down the road and development. And I was like, all the research shows opposite of that. And my boyfriend was pretty supportive for the most part, but I know it was out of exhaustion that there were times where he was just grayed out, which I understand. But yeah, it's definitely hard to advocating when I'm just being told like I'm looking for things, and there were definitely times where I felt like I was going crazy.
Yeah, I think that was one of the first, like in one of your initial emails and stuff to me, you were like,
Hmm.
I just want to thank you for like, I feel like you're the only person who's like listening to me. And
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh, it made me so happy but sad at the same time because it's just like,
Yeah.
I'm just a sleep consultant.
I know. No, it's sad because yeah, I feel like you have more information sometimes than physicians, and
Yeah.
I feel not just in
Especially
the
when it comes
area
to sleep.
of sleep, but in a lot of other areas, you have to find an alternative route. Yeah.
How did you find me initially? I'm like trying to remember.
Yeah, I'm part of this. It's called the Noel method. It was designed by occupational therapist, and
Okay.
it's an online course that I bought when I was pregnant about like what to do with your newborns, because they're like a lot of people think with your newborns they just eat, sleep, and poop, which like yes they do, but it was all about all these other activities you can do to help strengthen like mobility or, just different little activities you can do. And so I posted in there that I was looking for a sleep consultant and one who didn't rely on the cried out method because they didn't promote that either. And so a few people had dropped your name. Yeah.
I always love to find out how people found me.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Did you ever really like second guess yourself and feel like shame around not sleep training? Like you were doing your child a disservice? Because I feel like that was definitely something like when we initially, with my oldest, like I thought I was doing the right thing, like for my child. I was teaching
Yeah.
her a life skill that she needed when we started
Mhm.
looking into sleep training and stuff. And I feel like a lot of other parents feel the same way about that too.
Yeah, a little bit, especially with all the push from family members about, cried out and he needs to learn how to self-soothe because he's never going to learn. But I mean, I had a background, my degree was in psychology, so I kind of had that knowledge, and I knew from the start when I was pregnant, it's something that I'm very like empathetic and I feel other people's emotions. And so, especially with my baby, I just like anything that feels like pain to me, I can't do it. It's too hard. So I'm like, if it doesn't feel right, I'm not going to do it.
Good.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped you stay grounded in your instincts. You feel like your
Mhm.
background probably had a lot to do with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Good.
So
Was there anything else that you feel like really helped in that situation, like staying grounded and just being able to kind of continue to follow your instincts?
I think definitely surrounding myself with friends who aligned with my values. I was fortunate after I had my son, I became friends with a lot of like doulas and midwives. And so they kind of had the same values that I had. So if I didn't feel supported with my family, I reached out to them to kind of stay grounded and remember what was true for me. Like I mentioned, that one friend said, like, you're your child's advocate. And that really stuck with me because, like, he can't advocate for himself and he can't tell me what he needs. And I mean, now he can, but
Yeah,
um,
no.
yeah.
Well, that's good. I agree with that. Surrounding yourself with like-minded
Hmm.
people, like there's so much push for like social media and stuff like that. Like if anything just doesn't align with how you're feeling as a parent, I just go not interested or block those accounts
Yeah.
and stuff. Like you don't want to have to be going online and scrolling and feeling like you're doing something wrong for your child when your instincts are telling you like no this it feels right. And I am glad that there are so many communities like that and more resources
Hmm.
and stuff. Like I'm hoping over the next few years it'll get a little bit better.
Yeah. Social media is definitely a big one because, I mean, yeah, it can be hard not to like doom scroll, but I told myself I'm only going to like follow accounts that align with my values. So I think that I only follow like your sleep account page and I think like one other, but that's about it. And yeah, anything else. There's a lot of, I think, social media. There's one that says, put them down drowsy, but awake. And yeah, that one bothers me.
Yeah, it's one of my big ones. I post about that one a
Yeah.
lot because it's like the majority of the clients I work with support their kids to sleep. Like
Yeah.
it's not a thing. That's not even on our radar anymore. Like yeah,
Right.
if you want your child to fall asleep independently, like we can work on that, but it's going to depend on like temperament stuff like that. Like
Hmm.
my kids are 4 and 7, and we still lay with them while they fall asleep. And
Yeah.
most of the time, it's a lovely experience. So they have their days, but it just depends on what's going on. Okay, do you want to talk a little bit about just like kind of what led you to want to work together in the 6 week program? I'm assuming it's because he was waking up every hour all night long.
Yeah. I knew when we got to about 9 months, maybe before that, but I just recall the 9 month mark and I was like, this doesn't feel normal. I know there's regressions or I think you like to say it, developmental progressions.
But
And so I was giving it time, but then, it kept going to like a year and then I think before we worked with you, we were working with some other specialists, and things were still weren't improving. So it's like, okay, still it's time to seek out a sleep consultant. Yeah, that's what led me to you, because I was like, we've ruled out all these other things. We just need some help.
That's what I love too, is like you had come to me and you're like, we've rolled all of these things. And I'm like,
Yeah.
great, those are all on my intake form.
Yeah.
These are all the things I look at. This gives us a good starting point and stuff. And, we still had points where it's like, hey, let's reach out to this specialist. I think we were working together and you had reached out to the ENT and we found out
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And we just kind of
Yeah.
pause support during that time and see what happens and then kind of get back on track. Cause obviously I focus heavily on like the sleep foundations and all of that kind of stuff. But, if that medical stuff's not in place, none of that stuff's going to work. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the biggest kind of mindset shift that you feel like you experienced when working together?
I think it was the reset, like at nighttime, if putting him down was taking too long, because I would be someone who would just be like, why aren't you going to sleep? And I would spend an hour in there with him. And then I remember you mentioning how that could cause, some like trauma, like associations with him and me in a dark room. And so just after 15 minutes, like doing a reset with him, and that really helped. And now he even says it like himself. He goes, reset. I don't know if he exactly knows what it means right now, but
you say it, so
yeah, it's really
yeah.
cute.
It's so true though, because that's one of the big things I tell my clients is like, if
Yeah.
we are sitting in a dark room for an hour, like I've done it because I'm like, we're so close, like I know you're gonna fall asleep, and then an hour rolls by and you're so frustrated. I mean, I don't know about you, but I turn into a little bit of a spaz,
Yeah.
and I'm dysregulated, and from a co-regulation standpoint, my kids feel that, and then they're not going to sleep anyways at that point in time. Like I make it worse by staying in that room because I'm like, we're just gonna
Yeah.
push through. So sometimes I don't follow my own advice, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely I'm like 15-20 minutes for the most part. I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. We're gonna
Yeah.
go out and I'm gonna make myself a tea and just relax, read my book for a little while you get out a little bit more energy, and then we're going to go back in the room and try again, because it's such a
Yeah.
waste of time. And you're right, it does create like this negative association around sleep, because it's like, hey, we're going into bedtime stressed out, anxious.
Mhm.
They're feeling all of that, and then they hate bedtime, and I hate bedtime too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's very sensitive to what I feel. So, and I'm not a nighttime person. So, if I just spend a long time in there and I get angry and frustrated, and then he's probably feeling that and making
Totally.
it
We're all
sometimes
normal
harder
beings.
than, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. How did understanding his unique sleep things really change stuff for you? Because obviously I had you fill out logs and all that fun stuff in detail.
Yeah, yeah. I know. It was really interesting. Or I feel like our culture kind of has this mentality of like either let your baby cry it out or uh, don't wake a sleeping baby. And I was kind of had black and white thinking. It's like either or. So as he got older, and of course when he's a newborn, I was gonna let him sleep because that's the majority of the day they spend sleeping. And I was like, well, I don't know how to adjust his needs. Based on like personality. And then when you told me that like you could wake him up and do a bridge nap, and I was like, I didn't even know that was a possibility. Yeah. And also, like, I worked with kids a lot, and I thought all these kids that I worked with would just play with toys and like fall asleep so easily. And of course, I had one who wouldn't do that. I had one who needed a lot of outdoor time, and he's a sensory seeker, so just a lot of like moving. We have swings, we have slides in our living room right now, and like a little climbing triangle. And so just understanding that it's not a one size fits all approach was really helpful and kind of changed my whole perspective on sleep needs. And because I know his cousin can, we went on a trip and she fell asleep in the airport just like on the floor, and I was just so envious of her. Though I mean, she had like 5 older siblings, so I was just like, I just had to have a child who wouldn't do that. But
Well, that was my
yeah.
mindset with my first, is like, well, she'll just sleep if she's tired. And that doesn't
Yeah.
happen at all. And to go back to like the sleep, like not waking a sleeping baby and stuff like that, I feel like a big factor for you guys is like, too, you were waking up a lot at night in
Yeah.
general. So you're like, okay, if he's tired during the day, I'm just going to let him sleep. And then it just becomes kind of that cycle and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you track his sleep at all before we started working together?
I didn't know.
And that can be
Yeah.
stressful for some parents. they look at the logs that I have and I'm like, it's okay. Like if it's stressing
Yeah.
you out, like I don't want to make it worse, but it is helpful to kind of see what's going on and like what wake windows are working. Cause I think that was one of the big things that we figured out quite quickly. I was like, hey, I can't remember exactly what the wake window was, but I was like, I think this looks like the optimal wake window. Like he's consistently falling
Yeah.
asleep around this time, despite, you're sitting in the room for an hour and then, sometimes it's taking a little bit less time. It depends on what's going on. But I was like, I could see a consistent pattern with that. I'm like, let's try this wake window. And you're like, oh my gosh, like it's just
Yeah,
so much
he's
easier.
still
So
on that
it's
same
funny.
wake window or similar wake windows.
Yeah, yeah. So it can definitely be helpful for a lot of parents. But I have other parents who come to me, in a similar situation, but they're like, I've been tracking their sleep since they were born on the Huckleberry app. And then they're sending me all these graphs with like these
Yeah.
blue and green lines. And I'm like, I need you to put that in my log because that doesn't mean anything
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah, that'd probably
It's a
stress
graph.
me
I don't
out.
know what that means. So yeah, I like my little
Mhm.
my Google document that I have families fill out and stuff. But sometimes tracking your child sleep obsessively can make you more stressed out. So I think there's this kind of happy medium.
Yeah, no, I really liked it. I knew there were a couple times where I think I got stressed out over it, but not
And you
that
just
much.
told me, and I was like, I don't care, Kelsey. Like, and that's
Yeah.
another thing. If your child's waking up every hour all night long, I'm like, you can just write they woke up every hour all night
Yeah.
long. You don't need to be looking at your phone in the middle of the night and looking at the blue light and making everything worse and stuff. But you mentioned like we knew he was sensory seeking and stuff, and you mentioned he's been seeing an occupational therapist. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, he actually just started seeing her this morning because we had some
Okay, so
issues with
okay,
getting him started. But we have it's called Sensory Innovations. It's a little occupational therapy building, and they can go and do like free play if they want, for like an hour at a time. And so we go there sometimes just for him to play and do those sensory needs, especially if it's raining and cold outside. Yeah, he just loves it. And right now, it was really interesting to talk with her this morning and just talking about how to just strengthen his like skills, his like arm strength, his core strength, even. And so I feel like that's going to really help, like, in the long run with him playing and even with sleep too eventually because it's those sensory needs met. And
yeah. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. And a lot of time we're trying to like wind our kids down. And I mean, Luna is a sensory seeking child, my second, but she definitely still needs that wind down routine in between the all the physical activity and the bedtime. I find that with like highly sensitive kids who are also like really intense with their emotions, like that's a really common thing to see where they need that extra wind down routine, and other kids can like go go go, shut it off, and then just go to sleep. And it really, again, temperament, it really depends.
Yeah, that was something that was really helpful for me to understand too, is because I thought like, oh, we can just come home from the park and go straight to bed. But then when I put in like a calming like story time and just let him roam around his room for a while without any pressure to go to bed, like it was so much easier to put him down. And so, yeah, that was life changing too, the sleep.
Yeah, because some of them do need that wind down routine. And I know that with Luna, like I say to my husband, I posted about this last week, but we do like lots of like car bedtimes where, because my kids will
Hmm.
transfer and stuff. But sometimes like we're out and I'm like, I don't want to go home with Luna awake because she will need an extra like long wind down.
Yeah,
Like she can't just shut it off. So I'm like, I'd prefer to fall asleep in the car so that
yeah,
we can just transfer and we don't have to do a lengthy bedtime when we get home because some kids need that. And then like with my oldest, she can literally watch like movies, screen time or whatever right up until bed, go into bed and go to sleep like no problem. And that
hmm,
would be like an absolute nightmare for
yeah.
Luna, which is hard because she like wants to do movie nights with her older sister and stuff. And we just
That's
like,
sweet.
I'm like, you can't really like we do. Luckily, we have a projector downstairs, so that's like less screen
Yeah,
timey. So that definitely helps. But yeah, it's hard, and it's the same thing with like sugar and stuff. Like Aylin, my oldest, can
yeah.
have sugar right before bed. Luna is a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah, we've been experiencing with him too, with like nighttime snacks or not, and yeah,
Yeah,
so he definitely won't transfer in the car. So if we do, we try to avoid car naps because we have to like stay in the car
yeah, it's
if he
rough.
falls asleep, and so we're like we gotta like trying to time it sometimes, but yeah,
Do you feel like when we were working together, it was like a slow shift in his sleep, or
mhm.
did it happen pretty quickly? Like I feel like once we looked at those logs, it happened minus all the medical stuff, but it
Yeah.
felt like a pretty quick shift for you guys.
Yeah, it definitely felt quick. I mean, I won't lie. Like, despite even reading on your website, like it wouldn't be like an overnight fix. Part of me was like, this is gonna work tomorrow, which I knew it. That's not how it worked, but I was so desperate. Yeah, I think relatively it definitely improved, especially when we started like capping his nap and
Yeah.
um, improving the nighttime sleep. But yeah,
Yeah.
I can't remember how long it took, but it didn't take too long.
It wasn't, it was I feel like, yeah, like once we kind of got a handle on all that other stuff, it happened relatively quickly.
Yeah, I
Did you guys night wean while we were working together too?
when we were on like a break for like medical reasons, and it was I did night wean at I think it was like 20 months.
Okay.
Yeah, we had just got back from a trip because we went on a flight, and I was like, he can nurse all he wants on the airplane. But yeah, so we night wean then, and even now, honestly, that's still like he still calls for me in the middle of the night and says like milk, and I get like water chucked at me if I give him something in replace of the milk. But I'll usually start feeding him again around like 5:36 in the
Yeah.
morning, and
Kind of push it a bit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is still normal and stuff, especially with everything going on nutrition wise and everything. And also if it's like your sleep association as well. Like
yeah,
that'll just kind of continue. And I was the same way with my girls, like until I like actually weaned. If like they woke up at night, I just nursed them back to sleep. And like it
yeah,
probably wasn't really a full feed at that point in time, depending on how
yeah.
old they were. But I was just like, I'm not rocking you to sleep.
Yeah.
No.
Because the minute he latched, he wouldn't get a full feed. He would just fall right back to sleep. And I was like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a
He
huge
was also
issue.
waking up a lot more at that point.
Yeah.
And that went well with you guys. I'm trying to remember. Like I feel like we reconnected and resumed support, you had already kind of gone through the process, right?
Yeah, it was done by the time we kind of resumed support. It was helpful having my boyfriend here. He kind of jumped in and was able to help go and soothe him back to sleep. It's hard for me to let him do that. Even now, it's still hard, but I let him do that. And yeah, I definitely got a lot of it. Yeah, he still wants milk. I think I mentioned in the middle, and it happened within like a month night weaning. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm still day feeding, which is going okay. I mean, I try to like cut it down to just like nursing to sleep, and it just doesn't work that way. But I also kind of factor in like we're still working on, doing feeding therapy, and he's that's why he's probably, wanting it more.
Totally. And
Yeah.
emotional regulation and stuff during the day, depending on what's going on. Like it was my go-to tool for so long. Like I hated losing that.
Yeah, and part of me, it just like I didn't feel right yet about it, like I did about night weaning. It just, yeah, I was like, it's something only I have that no one else has that I can give to him, and
For
yeah,
sure. And as long as like sleep's going well and stuff for the most part at night, you want to talk a little bit about what sleep looks like right now?
yeah. So we're probably averaging about 7 hours of sleep at night, 7.5. Some nights are better than others, so I don't expect
Is that like
perfection.
all like a 7 hour stretch?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, so it's really good. Last night he woke up, I think about it was really weird. It was like 12:30 and he went to bed around like 9:30. He just cried a little bit, but then he like my boyfriend jumped into the room and he like right when he got in the room, he just put himself back to sleep, and so he didn't even like soothe him or anything. He was going
You
to,
guys are on a
but
floor bed, right? I remember that transition
yeah, so
too.
that's part of an issue. We are playing with the temperature at night. Because I think the nights that he does wake up a little bit sooner, he's cold. And so it's a little colder on the floor because heat rises. And so in his room, if the heat goes on, it gets really hot. And if I don't
That's
know, there's
not
something
kind of
weird about his room. So it's hard to find a good temperature in there. But yeah, but for the most part, he makes it till about like 5 in the morning from like 9:30, which is much better than hourly.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a change.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is your like sleep routine, like going to bed and stuff look like now?
Hmm.
Like, what's as well as like daytime sleep? Like, what's the schedule like? What's the routine before bed?
Yeah. Well, for daytime sleep, I think he's at like about an hour and a half nap right now. Like he even gets up before, like I don't have to wake him up right now. Yeah. And we were at like an hour and 45, and that was causing like more disruptions in nighttime sleep. And I was like, okay, let's do what Alicia said and go down 15 more minutes. And so that's what we did. And that seems to be working right now. And so before nap time, I think I mentioned like we'll go on an outing in the morning to get some energy out. And then we'll come home, kind of, have lunch and calm down. And because he needs that wind down time with like books. And he's kind of made that like association. And nighttime, yeah, it's a little bit harder. But, we just kind of get like pajamas on. Sometimes we try like a nighttime snack to see if that helps during the night, keeping him a little more satiated, and like getting PJs on, like brushing teeth. We typically don't do story time just because we're so tired by like 9 o'clock at night. But then, yeah, he actually recently started saying story, and so we'll just tell him a story about his whole day. So we'll do that instead.
Story.
Yeah, but usually I'll feed him a little bit and then dad takes over because he just goes to sleep a lot faster with dad. Yeah. And I feel a little bit guilty sometimes, but I have to let go. And yeah. I know. And it helps with their bonding too. Yeah.
And you get a nice break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even in the middle of the night, one time he's like, I want daddy. I was like, well, that's unusual.
It happens randomly. It did with our girls. I know it was 18 months with me, and then I like warned my husband around the 2-year mark, kind of when they go through that progression too.
Yeah.
And I was like, she's probably just gonna want me and stuff. And then she ended up like, I was nursing at the time. She was like pushing my boobs away and being like, "No, leave me alone. I want daddy." I'm like, "Yes."
Right. Yeah.
So we did bedtime for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny how that switches depending on who you're favoring from an attachment aspect.
Yeah. I know. I keep telling myself I can't wait for the day he just wants to like just be with you all day long.
It'll come, and then you'll be sad about it.
I know, right? Yeah.
Okay. What is something that you would say to parents who are feeling pressured to sleep train?
Yeah, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but honestly, just to listen to your intuition and gut about what you feel is right. And I also going back to like surrounding yourself with the people who kind of align with what your values are. Like if sleep training doesn't feel good, like don't do it.
What would you tell a mom that feels like there's something going on deeper from a medical standpoint?
Yeah, kind of same thing. Just listen to your intuition again and don't give up because you are your child's advocate. And, if there is something going on, it's better to catch it sooner than later. Those people who are telling me that he's fine, I'm just looking for something, they spent like 15 minutes with my kid throughout the day. They're not with my child throughout all day and all night. They don't see what's happening. Your child's best. These
are the people who are always giving advice are not the ones that are, waking up with them every day all night long.
Yeah. No.
You're the one who's in the thick of it. Well, thank you so much for coming and chatting with me today. It was lovely.
Thank you. I was happy to be here.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to connect with us beyond the podcast. You can find me on all social media platforms at moonbay.sleep. And for more sleepy goodness, you can head over to Instagram and follow Eleni at Rooted in Sleep. Until next week, keep embracing the chaos.